Water Project. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi, greetings.
Thank you, my friend. How are you doing today?
I am doing excellent. How about yourself?
I'm well. Thank you. This is Ivan Changa. I'm standing in Satarica, Doha, and I'm happy to discuss what we have on the Prosperous Bringing Water and Food campaign.
Excellent, excellent. What exactly is the Prosperous Bringing Food and Water Project? Can you enlighten our listeners, please?
Definitely. And thank you for allowing me to be on the air with you today. I'm excited to bring what we can do for the world, in a sense, by our project and our passion for what we are about when we talk about bringing water and food. As we all know, water, and thank God today in Southern California, we have been blessed with this amazing rain. Water
Yes.
has been uh, a point of human life, and where I always say a drop of water can bring more life than anything else that we can create scientifically. And when God created this water for us, there was a reason behind it. Unfortunately, over the last few decades, we have found that water crisis has become a major challenge all over the world. And our goal is to bring water back to what nature has intended to bring life into human beings, into our plants, into our animal life, and our ecological system as a whole. And what we do with Prosperous is bring that alignment into play from air, soil, atmospheric conditions, human life, animal life, aquatic life. And by bringing in the right type of water, we can manage that cohesiveness of what God had intended to be. And that's what it is all about, to bring water where the water is needed for the people where it is needed.
Oh, that's interesting. Hi, Tariq. This is Daryl Waters, and thanks again for joining us. So, your team developed the workflow, water treatment
Yes.
unit. How does this unit work?
So what we have done is we have created from our travels all around the world, especially in developing countries, what we have found is what we say water in our developed countries like the United States, we don't understand the value of how water can be implemented or be used in those parts of the world that we don't see because those are in faraway places. But when we travel and when we go to various places in Africa, in Asia, what we find is a source of water that we think is so simple when we turn on the tap and we get water is not as simple. And bringing water to the people is not something that this millions of people all around the world have even a concept of it. To us in our developed countries, we turn on the tap, we get water, we take a shower, we flush our toilets, and the water goes somewhere, and it's not contaminating our farmlands or it is not onto the streets, which is not the normal for this country. And with what we created by looking at what we have to happen in the world, is we bring in the type of water where it is needed based upon the water source that is there in those types of the countries. And what we do is we have created systems and we call them units because they're all individualized units that can take water source, for example, lakes, streams, rivers, and turn that into clean and safe drinking water on the spot for whether it is 2,000 people or whether it is 20,000 people, and we can Lego block our systems to fit the need. Similarly, in farmlands, there are hundreds of wells all over the United States, thousands of wells all over the world, actually millions, where some of those wells are now so contaminated because we have drained them dearly over the years. We have industrial pollution into those wells. So we can take that well water and use it for farmland. We can use it for various industrial sources as well. One of the biggest sources in the world when it comes to equipment is our desalination systems because the world is abundant with seawater. The challenge with seawater is we cannot live with it, we cannot drink it, we cannot use it in our farmland. Imagine we can use that source of water without using massive desalination plants, but on an individual micro basis and provide clean water to a lot of these countries where there is brackish water and sea salt water.
We had
Similarly,
someone
the
on.
sewage.
I'm sorry, I didn't
Go
mean
ahead.
to
I'm sorry.
interrupt you. I just wanted to interject. We had someone on last week that was talking about how expensive the energy was for the desalination plants.
That is so true. It's not only the energy expense, but the cost to put a desalination plant together. You cannot put a desalination plant anything under 150 to 200 million dollars, and it takes between 10 and
Wow.
12 years to put a plant together. Number two, and the amount of time it takes to build a plant like that, you can say between 7 to 10 years minimum, along with the cost that takes along that and the payoff cost, which is in years down the road. So what we have done is we have created equipment that is size of a dining room table, and we can create clean water at 5 liters a minute and provide you clean and safe water for 20 hours a day if you don't have power, because we have equipment that are all off the grid, so you don't have to worry about the power it requires or the diesel fuel it requires or the grid power it requires, and we can do it via solar panels with backup batteries. If you do have grid power, we can adapt to grid power, and we can Lego block them together. So based upon the need, we can achieve the number of quantity or the quantity of water that is required. So our concept changes that mindset, what you just talked about from last week, of how much power it requires or how much money is needed.
Certainly.
So you just say the type of water. Do you categorize it a certain way?
Yeah, so we have 4 different categories of water that we categorize to use our equipment. One we call bacteria-laced water, for example, seas, rivers, storm drains, etc., lakes. The other source of water, which is even city water sometimes that comes in, is contaminated with bacteria or some kind of metals. So we can use our water treatment unit to achieve the results of human consumption water. The second one is the well water unit, where we take well water which is high in iron, manganese, zinc, and other industrial pollutants, and we can turn that into clean and usable water for human consumption as well as industrial applications. Third one, which is, of course, the desalination systems, where we can take seawater for farmlands, for human consumption, and whatever other industrial applications can go with it. But the most important one, which is a silent one, which we call sewage water systems. So sewage, like in our countries that we are so used to, we flush and it is gone and we don't even understand what happens to it. However, in these third world countries, developing countries, that sewage contaminates other wells that are used for drinking or farmland. The sewage contaminates land because now the produce that we grow or the food that we grow is contaminated with feces because of sewage spillovers. So what we created is to create that sewage system that is on site, on demand. So as the sewage is created, we can clean that sewage and remove the contaminants and make it, in fact, nitrate-filled sewage that can even be used as fertilizers in the farmlands or water sourced with nitrate to bring even further costs down for farmland. So we have created these 4 systems to provide within the third world market or the developing countries market, as well as now developed countries that can be adapted to the same systems using our Lego block methodologies.
Wow. So how does it impact water scarcity and the world water crisis?
In various ways. One of the biggest ways that we impact water scarcity and water crisis is the health side of human factors. Within the human factors in U.S., we don't have that much of an impact. In most of the times, of course, we hear the Flint water crisis, etc., but it is not as evident as it is we see in the news on a normal basis. However, in developing countries, and I will give you this one example, and I'm not going to name the country, an average school days of the year is supposed to be 226 school days for kids starting from, in our world, we call it grade 1 to grade 10. In those worlds, when it's called standard 1 to that level, out of the 226 days, an average kid only goes to school for 81 days. And the major factor for kids not going to school is bad water. So either they are sick or they don't have enough food to eat, or they have medical problems for the family where the kids cannot even go to school because the parents are not there to take them to school. By providing clean water, we have seen within less than 90 to 120 days, that school day average goes from 86 to approximately 120 days. That is a huge change of what education itself is going to do with clean water. So even though it is not as apparent evidently up front, but we can say that the impact is so big just on that side of it alone. Now let's talk about the health costs. By providing clean and safe water of approximately 2 liters per kid for a school in these developing countries, we can save not only school days, but over approximately $150 billion in that one country alone in medical costs. So the impact of clean water, which we cannot see it on the surface, is huge when it comes to the impact of it on a downline or the domino effect of, as we say in our world.
Wow.
That is very interesting. Now, I know you have your products take on about 4 or 5 different categories. Could you go over that for us, please? We talked about that the other day.
Yeah. So the categories are, again, as I mentioned earlier, we have direct water treatment unit that can be used for lakes, rivers, streams, and you have bacteria-laced waters, and we can use that to clean that water. The second category, which is our well water systems, whereby it can be used for various ions and sulfates and industrial composite waste that goes into our streams that contaminates our wells, or for that matter, as we are using more and more well water, we are getting deeper and deeper into the groundwater, and that groundwater have other contaminants that we are pulling out of wells that are not safe to be used for human or for industrial uses. Of course, the third one, which is the seawater systems, where we can take seawater, ocean water, and turn that into usable water for human consumption, industrial consumption as well, along with the sewage systems, whereby we can take that water and make it usable for various aspects, including one of the biggest, one of the countries has been talking about on the sewage side is how can you put that water back into the groundwater? Because what happened is as we are depleting the groundwater tables, our ecological system is being altered by completely draining our groundwater or underground water system. But imagine putting back this treated water with sewage, because now the natural mechanisms of filtering the treated water becomes like a spring water for them as the nature can purify this water by itself over years of its use. So by bringing back the water back into the groundwater, it can completely change how the ecological system can be harnessed back into nature's own environment and how nature was intended to be. If that kind of gives you a quick understanding on the 4 systems that we have created, along with the other systems that we are deploying as we progress into the marketplace.
Got it.
This is great.
So how will it change the world, in your opinion?
Oh, that's a very open-ended question, but I'm going to tell you this way.
Yeah.
In the world, we have 2 types of economic factors. The first economic factor is when we go for work and we get a paycheck. And the second economic factor is how we put food on the table. And in our developed countries, we don't consider the 2 factors as a separate alignment. We consider that as both one. However, in some of the countries where close to about 2.2 billion people don't have access to water, it changes that economic factor at a new level. Because what it does is it brings in food subsistence in a sustainable way where the paycheck doesn't have to be relied only for food. It can be relied to get a lifestyle. And when we say lifestyle, just to have a roof over your head or have a transportation mechanism to go to the fields or take the kids to school became a lifestyle which we don't even see as a first-hand need. In those countries, by creating those 2 channels, water brings the economic cycle at a whole new level. And what we call in our agricultural sector, when we provide water in the agricultural sector, it provides subsistence or subsistence farming capabilities to the locals. So when you go to some of the third world countries in Asia, you find some farmlands are broken down because grandfather had 3 kids and parents have 3 kids each, and now the same farmland that was 10 acres now are divided into 9 people's subsistence requirement. The farmlands are so small, sometimes they cannot even grow enough food because each one is fighting with each other. by bringing in water the way we bring in, it completely changes the dynamics of economics for them. And as a result, their paycheck doesn't become a paycheck, bring their food on the table, because food on the table is taken care of through the subsistence living that now was from decades ago or generations ago. However, that paycheck became a completely new way of living for them. So it brings in the economic cycle as well as the ecological cycle into harmony.
This is beautiful.
That's nice.
Is there a contact phone number or a website someone can go to who may be curious about the programs?
Yeah, they can go look at our water systems at aquaworkflow.com. It gives them a quick understanding on our technologies at a very high level.
Okay.
We don't broadcast this out too much for quite a few reasons, because we know sometimes systems like us defy either the political will or, for that matter, it economically sometimes doesn't make sense for corporate reasons. So what we try to do is bring this type of systems at the level whereby local infrastructure can be adapted, local NGOs or local companies can bring that into perspective, either via corporate social responsibility, human social responsibility side, or for that matter, various church organizations, etc., can bring that systems in. So what we broadcast out is, like I mentioned earlier, through the aquaworkflow.com as a technology evidence more than what we can do as we progress. Through Prosperous, that is going to come into play as we are deploying our systems, and that is still a work in progress as we put out what we are putting into the world.
Very nice. So this will be a chance for us to take a quick station break, and we'll be back with our gentleman in just a minute.
Radio has openings for 1-hour talk shows. If you want to host a radio show, now is the time. Make KCAA your flagship station. Our rates are affordable and our services are second to none. We broadcast to a population of 5 million people. Plus, we stream and podcast on all major online audio and video systems. If you've been thinking about broadcasting a weekly radio program on real radio plus the internet, contact our CEO at 281-599-9800. 281-599-9800. You can Skype your show from your home to our Redlands, California studio, where our live producers and engineers are ready to work with you personally. A radio program on KCAA is the perfect work from home avocation in these stressful times. Just type kcaaradio.com into your browser to learn more about hosting a show on the best station in the nation, or call our CEO for details. 281-599-9800.
The Business and Sustainability Hour.
Of our show sponsors, it is Dr. Steenblock's Center for Regenerative Medicine, and it's located in San Clemente, California. They literally perform miracles at this place. If you have a chronic condition of any kind and want to get another opinion, definitely call Dr. Steenblock's Center for Regenerative Medicine. Their phone number is 949-367-8870. Ask for Naomi, and feel free to tell her Derek Walker referred you. You're listening to the Business and Sustainability Hour, AM 1050 KCAA radio. We're talking to a renowned scientist about the Prosperous Bringing Food and Water campaign.
So, Evian, another question for you, and thanks again for joining us. Have you heard of the water footprint?
Yes. There are various definitions when it comes to the water footprint, and it also depends upon what you're referring to. Would you mind elaborating on your question so that I don't deviate from your reference to that?
Well, it's just there are companies that are around the world and they have a description of what a green water footprint is and a blue water footprint and a gray water footprint. And it's just water, which is precipitation and is stored in the root zone for green. And it's sourced from surface groundwater for blue, and gray is something that's required to assimilate pollutants that meet specific water quality standards from what I have. And these are companies that have different types. And I would guess that's why I asked you earlier, is there a way that you categorize these different things? And you came back with bacteria. So yeah, it's just, that's what I would say about this water footprint.
Got it, got it. Yeah, so again, I always like to know what reference you're making to because the terminology for water footprint has been so abused
Really?
over the years.
Is it getting that old?
Yeah, and the meaning is a different meaning to most,
Oh, okay.
depending upon if you're talking to a scientist or if you're talking to like a World Health Organization. They have a different meaning to it compared to the corporate world when it comes to legal policy.
Well, I didn't mean to make it that broad for you. And I'm sorry, we will break it down for you if we have to. And I'm ready to do that at any point.
No worries.
Yeah.
So let me allow me to answer your
Yeah, sure.
at a little bit of a different level.
Yep.
So when it comes to the water footprint, when it comes to green water, or for that matter, even gray water, the biggest challenge is industries are considered one of the biggest gray water polluters because they create wastewater that can be laced with industrial pollutants as well as non-industrial pollutants, but it is still not usable for farmland or for human consumption. When it comes to green water, which is farmland water, because we use so much fertilizers in this day and age, and most of these fertilizers are definitely synthetic compared to non-synthetic natural fertilizers that contaminate the water runoff that comes out of our farmland. Not only our farmlands that we talk about within the industrial applications of farming, to even subsistence farming all over the world. Now urea, for that matter, or NPH-type fertilizers are so evident and they're so heavily used that we have created an issue with our soil alone over the decades of use that our natural environment is not able to reclimate the soil by itself. Even when we do cross plantations, like, for example, we plant cocoa this year, but next year we're going to plant maize, and the following year we're going to plant rice, still is not removing some of these other man-made contaminants to the sand to grow when it comes to the green water footprint. So it doesn't matter the amount of water you use, you're wasting that water in a sense because the application of water is no longer just dependent upon the water to grow a plant or to grow food or for livestock. Now it is dependent upon the other contaminants that have been adapted within that scope. So the challenge that you run into is the domino effect of what has happened needs to be rectified before just water by itself can be used or cleaned. And that's why we develop what we call in our systems is the downline and upline effects of water. So if you can remove the upline effects of water, as you go to the downline effects, you can reclimate that water. So we partner with companies that can provide soil nutrition levels, where we can change the oxygen supplements into the soil 2 weeks prior to planting season. That way the soil basically naturally evolves itself to its natural state compared to the state of contamination that has been put into it over the decades of fertilizer use.
Wow.
So there are various concepts that we bring into play through our lab to make sure that the technologies that are used out there, of course, everything starts with water. Without water, no human life can survive. No animal life can survive. We can probably survive for maybe 10 days, 15 days, 3 weeks without water. Without food, But without water, your brain almost starts depleting within less than 72 hours. And after about a week, your subsistence level of your organs to survive itself becomes 60% less. So water is the beginning point of every life that is on Earth. So water, as our water footprint becomes evident in the contamination levels, or for that matter on the pro side, where how much it benefits human life, animal life, plant life, aquatic life, It changes how we adapt to that water. So in my perspective, the cliche has a different meaning as I talk about it, and I'm sure now you understand why I asked you a clarification on it, because that cliche has created almost a political viewpoint to a corporate viewpoint compared to what we really need to think from.
So it's actually measuring the amount of water that's required. Yeah, I understand what you mean. You know, it's quite a concept of that technology.
Yes.
So, how does the aqua workflow benefit the water footprint to my family and the world, say, for instance?
Tremendously. Because what we see water today, we go to a supermarket and we buy our produce that may come from Mexico or Guatemala, or for that matter, some other parts of the world, if you look at some of the Asian produces that we get. That doesn't happen just because somebody had a farm and we got food on our tables. It happened because there was some kind of systems in place to produce that water to feed those plants or that livestock to produce the food that we get on our tables at the end of the day. So what it impacts is aqua workflow systems were designed to make sure that our food source or our water source have an unlimited supply compared to a limited supply. As you can understand, water have become the new oil all around the world. Water deaths have multiplied 15 to 20 times. Waterborne diseases have multiplied over 100 times just over 1 decade. And there is tons of scientific evidence that I can back up my comments with. So I always tell people, Google it, like we say, go do research on your own to find out what impact that we can do. With our aqua workflow system, what we bring is we bring it back down to Mother Nature, and we bring it back down to subsistence level. So imagine a farm, or imagine a village with 2,000 people, or for that matter, 20,000 people township, how they can bring water where there is no water, or how they can bring systems of farming where there is no farming available, using our industrial concepts or micro concepts, we call it. Through water, we can create aqua farms. Through aqua farms, we can create fertilizer facilities that are micro fertilizer facilities that are completely designed to use your current existing waste or current existing fisheries to provide the fertilizers for your farmland. So we are almost going to organic mindset compared to the synthetic mindset or the industrial mindset that we have created over the last 4 industrial revolutions. So aqua workflow, in reality, is going to create the 5th industrial revolution is where we're going to bring back the cons of all the industrial revolutions as a pro and change what we have devised over the years into what we are doing.
And you did talk earlier about your water treatment units. Did you want to go over that again, the types of machines you have and how they work?
Sure. So I guess let me elaborate on some of those machines in a different way. So one of the units that we have created is known as the water treatment unit. And the water treatment unit is the size of your coffee table. And it can be Lego blocked together to put 10, 15, 20 units at a time, all the way to clusters, we call it, of 50 to 60 clusters, because each unit can talk to each other. And we do that based upon the need requirement. Let's say we are putting together water treatment units for a hospital, and they have 500 people in the hospital, and they have approximately 100 beds. So you have about 700 to 800 people on a daily basis that needs water. We, based upon that demand, we can design our water systems to bring that clean water to the hospital based upon the water source they have. For the water treatment unit, if you have tap water coming in but it is contaminated, if you have a river or a well, or for that matter, streams and lakes, we can attach our water systems like our WTU into a system to bring that clean water to them. If you talk about a village of 2,000 people and each person needs 10 liters per day, it means you need 20,000 liters. We're going to give you 2 systems. And we're going to put it together that's going to give you that clean water, taking it from your water source, whether it is a lake or a river, and give you bacteria-free human consumption water for your use for cooking and cleaning and bathing and whatnot. That's our one system that we call the WTU system, which is the water treatment unit, to bring immediate water needs to any community, whether it is small or large. As we progress to the next one, which is our well water unit, There are various valves that are used all over the world for mostly farmland use and for, of course, human needs, where moms are walking 2 kilometers away with 2 5-liter jerry cans and a baby on the back to get clean water and bring that water back home. In the process, they get medical issues, they get hit by a car, there are various crimes that happen in the way, so women get various battered issues. So to avoid that, we can create systems where if you have a well or if you have a waterway right by your village or by your township, we can provide this water treatment systems and give them clean water there, even without power use, because we can run the systems through solar panels, we can run the systems to backup battery, etc. Wow. On the well water side, we can provide that well water and make it into clean, usable water for farmland. Because farmland, if you have contaminated water with iron and zinc and contaminants, you cannot use it for farmland, or you cannot use it for your industrial applications as well. So even small industries can use our well water units to put that together for them to create 5 gallons a minute of water, and it can be, again, Lego blocked together based upon your needs. So those are the 2 basic needs. Do you have any questions on that before I can move on to my next 2, which is the seawater and the sewage unit?
Well, yeah, I mean, we did cover the cost, and it's going to be something of much less than it would be for us to build infrastructure with the time and the energy, and not to mention health costs alone. And you have
Correct.
2 in 5 healthcare facilities worldwide, have no soap and water.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. In fact, one of the countries that we are trying to get into right now, the biggest challenge is if your wife is about to give birth to a baby, you as a parent or a husband have to take 2 5-gallon jugs of water so they can use that water during delivery and cleanup processes. If you don't take water with you, they'll be using their water, which is completely contaminated with minerals. The water looks dark that comes out of the tap in those hospitals. So just imagine that of what it can provide at that level. So it changes the paradigm of thinking of application of water at the health level for hospitals to clinics and schools as well.
So it's necessary to have reliable, and innovative and intelligent water network solutions.
Exactly, and that's the factor that what we provide through our Aqua workflow systems and through Prosperous, which is provide water source where that is needed and provide water source now without the cost factors involved with massive projects that we all over the world are being created. However, those projects takes a long time. And if you don't mind, I'll elaborate on the projects and sometimes how these projects are done. For example, let's say there is a city of 20,000 people, or for that matter, 200,000 people, and the government or the politicians decide that we want to provide clean water to our constituents. To do so, to start with, they need systems in place, so they're going to find what system they're going to use. Most of the systems are going to cost anywhere between $5 million to $50 million on the low end, all the way to $200 to $500 million on the high end for about 20,000 people to 200,000 people. To do so, now you have to go get money. So either you have to get on a ballot, or you have to go to IMF or the World Bank to borrow money to achieve that.
Yeah.
Then you have to award the contract. Once you award the contract, you have to start the construction and the infrastructure. Once you finish the construction and infrastructure, there can be political events, ministers change, weather changes happens, nature comes into play. So what the original plan of the project implementation was in 3 years, now became 5 years. Once the project starts to do what they're trying to do to provide clean and safe water, now you are into it for between 10 and 12 years before a single drop of water is given to any constituent. We changed that paradigm to, you want water for a village next week, you buy or you provide this water treatment systems, the units that we provide. We install it over there. By end of the week, you have clean and safe water. If you just want one unit and you already have a water source, you can take the unit off the truck, and in 15 minutes, you can get clean and safe water now.
Nice.
So it changes the entire concept of water and how it is delivered to the end user.
This is very good. Now, are there also some applications for campers, for military as well?
Yes. So our new systems that we are deploying, hopefully before the next backpack units, we call it, whereby military can use backpack units where they can take any source of water anywhere, use the units from the backpack, and turn it into clean and safe water on demand without any power source, but it comes with a backup battery within. If you have sun, you can open up a foldable solar panel. If you don't have sun, we are even working on a regenerative system where it's a crank system where you can crank it to create its own power, so that way the water can run through the source of water and provide clean water onto the output side of it immediately. Or like the moms that I was telling you earlier, who have to travel, walk 2 kilometers to get water. Now, if they have a water source right in the village or right at the location, now they can use this backpack unit and to get clean and safe water immediately for their needs. The military applications and camping applications are really big all over the world, and our focus was not on that. Our focus was originally to provide clean and safe water to these developing countries where the water was mostly needed. But the demand for this became so strong that we had to start developing this backpack applications, and now we have started developing this backpack applications for that reason, to provide for the military. In fact, right now, there is a couple of military applications that we are looking at that not only provides clean and safe water, but it even provides nutrient-laced water along with just our water source. So we have a module that can go into the system that can provide nutrients like hydrogen water, or for that matter, nutrition, applied water. So this way the water by itself alone is not only for drinking, but even going to give nutrition for various health benefits for military, for school kids, for moms, etc.
I like the part that it is cost effective, and that is also saving time. When you think time and money, it's just one of those things that you think towards something working, and if it does well, why not try it? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
because you think
Well,
about
I
it.
guess-
We have covered energy being a very expensive thing, and infrastructure may take as many years as you're projecting, but even longer.
Exactly. What happens with infrastructure, and I've seen over and over and over again in various countries, is there are I call them non-determinant factors. One biggest non-determinant factor is nature, because hurricanes happen, earthquake happens, etc. happen. And then the other non-determinant factor is we humans, we have created something what we call the war. And when war happens, infrastructure gets damaged permanently, or if not permanently, for a long-term basis. When that infrastructure gets damaged, whether it is nature or human-made damage, the infrastructure damage causes the disruption not only in power but in water. Power we can potentially live without, but water is the biggest challenge that we cannot live without. So now we have to think how we're going to do that water where there is that type of a damage. And by using systems like our aqua workflow systems, from the backpack unit to WTUs to our seawater systems, we can provide water in spite of those conditions, because we are so decentralized and we can provide it in cluster fashion based upon the need of the area. It can be even used as disaster application. So imagine if countries, or for that matter, companies, keep with them 10 units at all times. So if a disaster happens in your area, you can deploy them immediately for the use immediately. You don't have to worry about trucks coming in with bottled water and trying to supply bottled water to people. Now you can immediately deploy water systems that can clean that water from that location and give it to them immediately, whether it is well water, whether it is seawater, whether it is water laced with bacteria from the gutter, from the sewage, or for that matter, our rivers and streams and floodwaters. Now we can use that immediately. So that concept changes completely how we think about water. And that's what when we say, when it comes to cost of water, there is no dollar amount to put into it. And if you will, let me give you something what we call the water calculator. And what we figured out over the last couple of months as we are traveling the world and looking at what the cost of water is, if individuals want to support Aqua Workflow or our Prosperous campaign, let's say they give us $100. And most people will go to bed and feeling good for themselves that they put the $100 and now they are very happy that they did something for the world. However, the impact of that $100 is where I want to go with the water calculator. Imagine if $100 can provide about 166 liters of clean water. I'm not sorry, $100, $1. So $100 is going to provide times 100. So if every dollar provides 166 liters of clean water on an average, depending upon where we deploy the system, it brings in a new methodology of thinking what even an individual can do by themselves compared to spending $100 million on a water system for a city or a village.
Right. Okay, so we'll take a quick break here again, and we'll be back.
KCAA Radio has openings for 1-hour talk shows. If you want to host a radio show, now is the time. Make KCAA your flagship station. Our rates are affordable and our services are second to none. We broadcast to a population of 5 million people. Plus, we stream and podcast on all major online audio and video systems. If you've been thinking about broadcasting a weekly radio program on real radio plus the internet, contact our CEO at 281-599-9800. 281-599-9800. You can Skype your show from your home to our Redlands, California studio where our live producers and engineers are ready to work with you personally. A radio program on KCAA is the perfect work from home avocation in these stressful times. Just type kcaaradio.com into your browser to learn more about hosting a show on the best station in the nation or call our CEO for details. 281-599-9800.
The Business and Sustainability Hour is on the air.
And you are listening to the Business and Sustainability Hour, KCAA Radio, AM 1050.
Okay, so it's just we have touched quite a bit. So can you tell us, Evian, can you tell us about the Aqua Reserve and the APS fertilizer campaign in bringing water?
Sure. So that system is created for basically providing, again, subsistence food within a localized, completely localized environment. So if we have a water source that comes in, we can bring clusters of our water treatment systems, whether it is a WTU or well water unit or seawater unit, and put together enough water so that way we can create our aqua reserve system. And our aqua reserve systems, our water can grow protein-laced, like, for example, plant lentils that can be harvested every 15 days, that can give highly nutritional, protein-rich powder that can be used for food, whether it is in school environment, or whether it is in a hospital environment, or whether even it is in a normal food processing system where they can add that to the diet because it's a highly protein-rich environment, protein-rich food that can be harvested every 15 days through our aqua reserve system.
And your WTUs, I don't mean to break in, it's just your WTUs are water treatment units, just in
Correct.
case. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, our WTs are the water treatment units. Our well water units and our C units can take in any water based upon the type of quality of water or the effluent in to use those units so that way we can put that water out for our aqua reserve system. And in our aqua reserve systems, we have a dual purpose for the aqua reserve system. Number one, we can provide water to produce high protein-rich food growth. Secondly, we can even grow fish in it, and that fish can be used for our APS system. Our APS systems are considered micro-fertilizer processing equipment. And what we do is we use that APS system to the fish within the aqua reserve system that creates fertilizer for the farmland. And this fertilizer is considered completely organic, no synthetic applications whatsoever. And that fertilizer can be used for farmland to grow local food. In other words, in some areas that are growing cassava as a subsistence food. In Asia, a lot of South Asian countries use rice as a subsistence food. Or for that matter, if you go to some of the North African countries, maize and other types of food that are considered the subsistence food for their daily livelihood. And by putting the APS system, we can grow that food without the synthetic / fertilizers that we use, the commercial fertilizers, to grow our food. So the nutrition value of the food goes up immediately within 30, 60, 90 days of the use of the APS fertilizer systems to grow our food. As a result, the cycle continues downline for health benefits. So what it does is when we create our aqua reserve and APS systems within an environment, it becomes a packaged system for fully sustainable environment. So let me give you a picture in your mind. We take water, any water source. If it's seawater, we use our desalination systems. If it's well water, we use our well water systems. If you have river, stream, lake water, we use our WTU system to create that water into usable water for the aqua reserve. In our aqua reserve, we can grow, like I said, water lentils. We can create fish environments, and our aqua reserve systems can even be used to water as an irrigation system for the farmland. We even can grow fish, different types of tilapia / other fishes that are used to create the fertilizer in our APS systems that we can put right next to that aqua reserve system.
It's separating.
That APS system
It separates
everything out.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's nice. So would you like to talk about the APS, your aerobic protein stable issues?
Yes. So what we do is, within our APS system, we use different methodologies to make sure that the farmland can adapt, or farmland can be used for the ultimate experience of the soil. So what we do is we provide something what we call water oxygen supplements, where this supplement can go into the sand or into the soil and remove the contaminants of the soil that have been contaminated over the years with various commercial fertilizers that have been used into that farmland. Fertilizers causes various salt issues. So after about not couple of decades, even 5 to 8 years of use, our soil becomes highly saline, and that causes tremendous challenges for water to be adapted, for uptake of nutrients into the plants. Saline soils sometimes don't even allow the growth of the plant to happen because of the nutrition that was provided, which was very synthetic. So our APS systems, what it does is it breaks down that soil composition back into natural, how the water is supposed to be. I'm trying to use my terms so that way it can be easily be understood rather than using some of the scientific terms over here. So when we apply our water oxygen supplements and soil supplements with the APS system, microfertilizer system, the soil becomes extremely fertile in a sense, like as if it is virgin soil that has been growing on food now. So your very next applications after the application changes how the farmland is used and how the food is grown within that farmland, by not only by the number of quantity of the food, but even the quality of the food goes up by a few 100%.
Got it. Very nice. And, it's a way to solve what waste management problems, including animal waste, is it? Or, I'm just jumping right in. I don't know. It's just...
Yes, that is true.
Okay.
That is true. So a lot of animal waste can be converted into other systems like waste-to-energy modules that we have partnered with entities to take it into this part of the world,
but,
or even for that matter in the U.S.
Yeah, but fertilizer.
Yeah.
An
Exactly.
organic fertilizer.
Yes.
Organic fertilizer.
Yeah, okay. Well, very nice. And, Okay, so, we've touched on quite a bit here today, and it's just, so what would you say as far as businesses? It is a human, corporate, and socially conscious corporation, when they're delivering the bottom line. I mean, how would we say to them, hey, this is something that they're doing that is great. These units are new technology, and they want to know maybe how does it work. How would you, for businesses, it's just something that corporations are doing that might be better.
The good part about it is because in this last 7 to 10 years, our corporations have definitely taken a turn for thinking from the perspective of what we are doing to our planet and what we are doing us as human beings. And so corporate social responsibility along with human social responsibility have taken a very good stand by itself with corporations without policing them in certain way. because corporate social and human social responsibility has become an inherent wealth benefit to retain employees to or even to attract people to work for those corporations. Because the benefit that they're providing can be tremendous when it comes to environmental issues and water issues and health issues. So if you look at some of these companies that are all over the world, especially in Asia and Africa, you can find the companies that we see in the U.S. and North America and Europe, like Coca-Cola's and the Pepsis and the Microsofts and the Googles of the world. They are putting initiatives out there that can start from 100,000 to 2 million and 20 million at a time for villages, for cities, to bring education, etc. Part of the corporate social responsibility monies that are now being deviated are mostly gearing towards the low end of the spectrum that includes water now, because water has become the new commodity. So bringing clean water to where the water is needed has become a big, not only political, but attraction point for corporations to work from. So now we are starting to see various NGOs getting various corporate social responsibility dollars to put up projects together. So some corporations have created their own NGOs, or some corporations now have aligned with various NGOs like water.org, etc., to provide millions of dollars so that way they can do what they do best, while the corporations can support through their initiatives, through their profit, and through the shareholder value to provide this type of funding to achieve the results that we are talking about. If you don't mind, Derek, I would say in our case, for Aqua Workflow, we start with $100,000 and we can go all the way to millions of dollars for various initiatives that corporations are aligning to. And if they can align to some of what we are talking about, which is a new concept, which is a completely new paradigm to think from, because we are doing localized environmental impact, localized economical impact, and localized human impact compared to broad-scale macro impact. So thinking from that perspective, corporations can definitely participate in how we are impacting the world today, not 1 year from today, not 1 day from today.
Got it.
This is great. Thank you so much for joining us today.
The Inland Talk Express, 1050 AM and 106.